London in Hackney, and I'm still there now. I live with my parents and my youngest sister. I've also got an older sister and an older brother as well. I'm studying at the moment. I'm doing a master's in neurorehabilitation at Brunel, and I'm also working at a clinical trials company. So I'm working in a lab there, so analysing and processing bodily fluids. And in the future, hopefully I'll be able to get on to do a PhD, because I want to go into research, that kind of stuff. And my interests lie in neuroscience, so something along there, hopefully. A lot of people kind of say like science and religion don't go together, but I disagree with that, because I think one of the major things that kind of pushed me towards finding religion was doing my biomed degree, and like we would have like sessions in a dissection room and where we'd look at the human body and things like that. And then when you look at that and you look at how everything works in the body and all of that stuff, how can you not see that on a spiritual side? You know, like how could that happen without there's someone making that happen to start with? Like how could that happen by chance? Things like that. And that's kind of something that pushed me towards that religious direction, I guess. Like I said, my interest lies in neuroscience, and that is, me personally, I think that is one of the most complex systems in the body, but I would say that because that's my interest. But the fact is that so much is going on, especially when you look at it on a psychological or psychiatric side, and everyone is so different, like, and everything is so different, and like science and medicine in itself can't explain everything yet, and that is one of the things that make me think that there is something else going on, like something besides what you can see and feel and touch and all those senses. And yeah, basically that's a major thing. And one thing that I'll always remember from my degree, well, my 3 years, was that one of my friends, they were in the dissection room, and we have like handouts that sort of describe to us what we're going to do that session, that kind of stuff. And then the title of one of them was, because we were looking at the hand that day, and then the title was like, The Hand, a Miraculous Design. And then my mate goes to one of the other people in the group, he says, so the hand is a miraculous design, so who's the designer? And I think that kind of got everyone thinking as well, and that's something that I'll always take with me as well. My family don't have a religion, we don't follow a faith or anything like that. We have like our traditions and our cultures and stuff like that, but nothing so much religion or spiritual wise. So I didn't really grow up having to follow rules or having to believe this, believe that. And it didn't really bother me until I got to school, and then like everyone else had a religion, everyone else were doing this because of that, and then I just thought, why is that? So then I started talking to people and started to learn about it, and RE classes as well at school. So that kind of introduced me to different religions, things like that. And I think from then it's just curiosity more than anything. Like I'm always asking, why is this, why is that? So I've always wanted to know why, basically, and that's where I started reading up, learning around different things. And for example, like my grandfather, like when he's passed away, so like every month, like when there's the new moon or the full moon, I can't remember exactly what, we'd put like food out and like do things like that, and that's supposed to be for him when he's in heaven, and so he can receive the food, things like that. We don't really believe, like my family, we don't really believe that that actually happens, but it's a sort of tradition that comes from Vietnam, so then that's why they kind of just do it, just for the sake of doing it, things like that. I'd ask my mum, so like, why do we have to do this? And she'd be like, oh, so, you know, so granddad can get food when he's in heaven. And I was like, oh, so you believe in heaven and hell? And she's like, not really. And I was like, so then why'd you do it? And she's just like, because they're just so used to doing it. So, yeah. So I don't really get, like, in terms of religion and things like that, I don't really get much from my family from that. So, yeah, so they don't really understand. Yeah. My family, we do Christmas, like we celebrate Christmas, but I think it's more because that's the only time where everyone in my family, like all my cousins and my uncles, actually have a holiday, so that's the only time in the year where we can all get together. So we just use that as an excuse to get together and eat lots of food. So I think that's mostly it, really. Like we don't really, like my family wouldn't say anything special about Christmas, nothing like that. So like when we were growing up, it'd just be like an excuse to give us presents and that really, but not really any belief behind it all or anything. I've been back to Vietnam once, That was about 7, 8 years ago. I really like it there, but I don't know, it's very different to here. Over here, I don't really have that many Vietnamese friends. Like, I might have like 1 or 2. And it's just, growing up, I've kind of been put off that culture in the sense that people that I knew who were Vietnamese, or even my family in themselves, it's just, I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like the things that they would do or that kind of stuff. So I've always kind of kept myself away from other Vietnamese people ever, which I know it sounds really stereotypical and really bad, but that's just from my experiences. So I remember starting from school in RE, and then we'd have the 2 main religions that we would learn about was Christianity and Islam, and we'd used to have major debates. Like, the girls in my class would just be having debates about what's right and what's wrong and all of this stuff. And then to me, I just thought they kind of sound the same. Like, a lot of religions, there's not going to be a religion that's going to tell you to go around killing people, things like that. So I didn't understand why they were arguing so much, and I think that's what kind of made me want to explore it in more detail. And yeah, and I just found some of the stuff they were arguing about wasn't even right anyway. Some of the opinions that they had about their own religion weren't even correct as well. And it just, again, that curiosity, as in, why are people fighting over things they don't know about? Why are people arguing for no reason? That kind of stuff, that got me going even more, I guess. And when I went to uni, I kind of got a bit put off the whole religion thing, because a lot of people were saying that they were so religious, in front of everyone else. But then behind the scenes, it'd be a completely different story. And that kind of put me off, because I just thought, how can you do that? But then I just thought, maybe, religion, you shouldn't look at the people following it, really. You should look at the religion in itself. And that's what I started doing. I started pulling myself away from these people and just started reading for myself. I didn't want to be influenced by everyone, because I know that people say that a lot about religion, a lot of it is brainwashing, a lot of it is people pushing their opinions onto you. So for about 2 or 3 years, I just kept myself to myself and just read about it, lots of different religions, read lots of different texts, got opinions from different people. And I don't know what happened. There wasn't a defining moment where I just went, oh, I'm gonna be Muslim. It was just kind of, I just felt in myself that it was right for me. And I felt more happy when I was reading about Islam than any other religions. Or, I don't know, I just felt it made more sense. And I've always said to everybody, even before I became religious, that it's always a personal thing. It's something that you should feel inside of yourself, and not what other people should say that you feel. And I just felt, personally, in myself, that this is my way to connect to what I believe is a God out there. So that's why I kind of went along with it. Obviously, my whole life I didn't have a religious belief or anything like that, so I was living what you would say an atheist life. But it wasn't enough. All as well, yeah, they exist, I can see it, that's fine. And not having to worry about what happens after I die, and not worrying about there's someone watching me or whatever. But it just seems like the easy way out. Not having to worry about your consequences, not having to think about anything besides yourself and what you're doing now. It just seems like there's so much more than what you see now. There's so much more to who you are. And just living as an atheist just wasn't enough. I always felt that there was something that I didn't know what it was, but there was something that I was missing. And that's why I had to just go out and find it. And it is a lot easier, especially when you start uni, for example, to not have these religious beliefs, so you can just go out and do whatever you want to do and not think about what's going to happen afterwards. But I didn't like living like that, and I didn't feel that it was for me. My older sister, she brought up when I told her about this as well. But I was, like I said earlier, it's not about the people that follow it, it's about what they're what they're following, really. And I'm a kind of person who sees everything from lots of different sides. So I can understand if somebody really, really believes that that is right, then, they are going to act in extreme ways when they feel like other people are opposing them. And I'm not trying to justify what these people are doing, but like, that's not going to put me off, because I feel like everyone interprets everything in their own ways, and as long as I'm not going to go around doing these things, then I'm okay with that. Like I said, a lot of my friends are Muslims, so I've always spoken to them about it a lot. I didn't actually tell anybody that I chose to go to be Muslim until about like a few months later, because I wanted to make sure within myself that this is what I wanted to do. But I think, I don't know, I think I knew just, it was the end of my second year at uni, and I was just sitting there and I was just thinking, like, if I feel like this is right for me, why am I putting this off for? Like, what am I waiting for, really? Like, it's only me that has this decision to choose this. So I just kind of just sat there and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this now. Because the way I was living my life to start with wasn't like, because like going out and drinking and all of that stuff, I'd stopped that ages and ages ago before anyway. So it wasn't like I had to just make a massive life change. I was already leading up to it gradually by my own choice. So I just sat there and I just thought, I'm just going to do this now. So then one of my mates, I just sat down with him and I was just like, I want to do this now. And he was like, okay, fine, this is what you have to do, da 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 da. And then from then on, just slowly, I started telling like my closest mates, and they've just helped me out like with the sort of practicalities of things, like how you would pray and how you would wash and things like that. Because obviously I wasn't brought up, so I didn't know any of these things. So I have a lot of friends who have helped me to come where I am now, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, that was it. Just one day, just sitting down, I just thought about it really. Sometimes it's difficult because obviously the little things that people take for granted that they've been brought up with their whole lives, I have to sort of learn about it and be like, why do I have to do this, things like that. So I feel like I'm a baby starting all over again. But like, and also when it comes to like things like Eid and stuff like that, like I don't have like a family that I can sit down and celebrate Eid with, so sometimes it's a bit like, oh. But I think overall I much prefer being a revert than being brought up into it, because I feel like if I were brought up just from day one as a Muslim, there are some things I wouldn't question, and I'd just go along with it and not ask why am I doing this, which I feel is the case for a lot of people out there. And I feel like if I didn't get this chance to question everything that I'm doing, then I wouldn't appreciate what I'm doing as much as I am now. And I think that is, if you ask a lot of reverts, I think that is the major thing that they will say to you. The fact is, they are doing it their own choice. They have learnt about it and they've decided that this is right for them, and it's not like their parents have decided that this is right for you. Because I know a lot of people who have been brought up and they haven't questioned the ways that they have been brought up, and they're more likely to want to go against it because they don't fully understand why they're doing this, why they have to do this, why they have to do that. And then they're more likely to turn bad. I don't know any other way to put it. But yeah, so I am thankful that I am a revert, really. I know a lot of people that just see it as something they have to do to get to heaven. And like their attitude when it's time to pray is just like, oh, I have to go pray, quickly get over and done with, no. Oh, I've done it, yeah, I'm safe, I'm good to go. But it's not like that, isn't it? It's like, it's your chance in the day to take a break and just really think about why you're there and be thankful for where you are and to speak to God, if you will. And I feel like I'm glad that I know why I have to do it, so that I can appreciate when I'm praying, and it just makes me really, I don't know, emotional, like when I do pray, because I know why I'm doing it, as opposed to people that I see next to me and they're just rushing through it, and then it's more like a burden to them. And I feel like it's because, you know, probably when they're growing up, their parents beat them into doing it or something, I don't know, and that's probably why they don't like doing it as much. But I think that is the biggest thing that I'm glad about. It's difficult, like I understand, like especially nowadays everyone's so busy, like me myself, sometimes I don't even have time to eat, let alone do anything else. But like once I'm there, and it's just, because like you just close yourself off to everything, and it's like, because I don't know, it just feels like you just have time to just think about yourself and not about, oh, I have to do this when I go to work, oh, I have to write up this assignment or whatever. You just don't think about anything else but you and why you're there on that floor at that moment. And it's just really, it's peaceful. And I know it just sounds really cheesy and stuff, but it is actually really peaceful, and it's just nice. I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, it is emotional. I understand why people would assume these things, because obviously if you don't know something about something, you're going to start, you only pick up the bad things and you start making your own assumptions and all of that. But like, I've felt like, especially because I've grown up in such an environment where there are lots of Muslims and a lot of people do know what's what, so I've not really had any sort of prejudice towards me being a Muslim woman as such. I think just being a woman in itself does cause trouble anyway, and I think that being a Muslim woman wouldn't really make a difference to any hassle that you would get. Like, since reverting, I haven't had any extra hassle, any extra issues in terms of what people say or judge about me. So in terms of a personal level, I don't really have any experiences there. But I don't know, I don't feel like women in Islam are like oppressed, as people say, because how are they oppressed? What, because they have to cover up? How does that mean that they can't do what they want to do and do what they need to do in life? Just like, I understand some people are like, oh, you have to cover up so the men don't look at you, and then they go, well, men shouldn't be looking at you anyway. And I'm like, but they shouldn't, because it says that. The first thing it says is that men shouldn't be looking. So, and then they'll be like, well, if men can't control where they put their eyes, why do I have to cover up? No. And it's just like, it's quite funny, because the type of people that say that are those who want to go out dressed in certain ways to attract attention of men anyway. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a bit like, I just look at these, like mostly like girls and stuff like that say that to me, and I just look at them and like, you don't know what you're talking about, which is, it's not meant as rudely as it came out, but just like, they're like, when, say if they go out and they're wearing such and such, and I'm like, you're wearing what you're wearing to attract the attention of men. And they're like, no, I just want to wear it because it makes me feel good. I'm like, why does it make you feel good? And then it does go back to the fact that it makes them feel good because they get that attention. And the whole idea of dressing modestly is to not get that attention, because it's quite funny, because girls, when they get this attention, if the guy's a good-looking guy, they'll like the attention. But if the guy's not such a good-looking guy, then they'll be like, oh, why are you looking at me for? No. Which is a bit, it's weird. Like, and they honestly, it makes me think you really actually don't know what you're talking about. And so that's why I think when these people have these ideas of women in Islam, I just think it really doesn't affect me, because you really don't know what you're talking about. So it doesn't bother me. Like, I don't get offended by anything. None of the people that I know get offended by it. So let them think what they want to think. I'm still going about my daily life. I'm still going to get my career. I'm still going to live my life. So if that bothers them, then it doesn't bother me really. I went to an all-girls school to start with, so I don't have like any influence of guys around me, whatever. So I was brought up in my own little bubble. My parents are fairly strict, being Asian. So I'd go to school, come home, do my homework, go to sleep, go to school the next day. That was my life. And then I went to sixth form, and there were boys there all of a sudden. And then me and my girl mates, we were all, got really excited. Oh, there are boys here, whatever. And then from then, my life just kind of went, I got distracted, because I was like always wanting to hang out with my mates and stuff like that, because I had a bit more freedom than I did in school. So then when I got to uni, it was even worse, because obviously I'd moved out for uni, and then I didn't have my parents' control under me, that kind of stuff. So then for about the first couple of months, I just went out all the time, like lots of different mates, these kinds of things, like hanging around bad influences. But at the time, you just think, oh, it's a new experience. I'm in uni now. I have to do this, I have to do that. And then I didn't like it. Like, I'd go along. If I was asked to come out, I'd be like, yeah, I'll come out, whatever. But I didn't enjoy it. Like, I didn't like the idea of going to a club and having, like, sweaty, dirty people, like, in my personal space. I didn't like that at all. And it's very different for girls going out, because like I said, girls will always get that attention. Like, guys can go out and have a good time with their mates, it's not a problem. But girls, there will always be a guy trying to touch you, And I didn't like that at all. I really didn't. And then I just thought, this whole lifestyle in itself, it's not me. Like, I'm a very kind of at-home kind of person. I like to, if I go out with my mates, I'll go to one of their houses and we would chill out, get some food, you know, watch the TV, just something just at home where you could just relax. I don't like having to dress up and go out and end up somewhere you don't know where you are the next day with like a hangover, things like that. That's really not me. So I think that's why a lot of my friends were like, oh, we always knew you'd come along this path because you were going there anyway. So I know I don't want to do that. So then what do I want to do? Like, and that's when I started thinking, what is the point of me being here? Like, why am I here? What am I going to do with my life? Like, okay, I'll graduate, I'll get a job, I'll get a family. But then why? Like, what's the point of me having to do that? Where am I going to go afterwards? Like, that kind of stuff. I started thinking a lot. And that's when I got into the whole reading thing. I started asking my friends about what they believed, and just because I asked a lot of different people and they all gave me lots of different responses, and I think I stayed away from people who are more likely to push their opinions on me, because I really don't like that at all. Like, I want to be able to think for myself. I don't want to be forced to think a certain way. So I have a really, really good like circle of mates who all they do is push me to think. They don't push me to think the way they think. They push me to just think about myself. And that's helped me a lot, because it made me sort of really try to realise what I want from life and what I want from myself. And then, like, because it's easy to know what you don't want, but it's hard to know what you do want, isn't it? So that took me a while to just kind of get the guts to kind of go, this is it. I think, like, my family, in terms of what they want, like what my parents want from us, is not so much us having a family, us being more career orientated. So they want us to do well at school and get a good job and blah, blah, blah. So, but in terms of thinking about stuff like philosophical stuff or things like that, we've never really done anything. So I think myself, I'm probably the only one in my family who's ever thought about anything as in what is out there. So I think I myself would be atypical, but not so much my family. Like, they just kind of think, oh, make sure you sort yourself out for the future, so that make sure that you get a good income and that you can look after yourself and stuff like that. That's mainly their concern, really, yeah. But like, I don't know, I've always just wanted to be, I've always found that I was different. So I guess that's why I'm where I am now. I understand the reasoning for having to need to get good grades, because especially in this society, you can't just go on, you know, with nothing. The system works that you have to do this exam, you have to do that exam to get that position. So, and I like studying, which is why I'm still studying, and I do want to go into further research. I still want to continue studying. So that's not been a problem for me. It's just that I've always found time outside of my studying to look at other things, whereas I know my sisters, they wouldn't. So their sole focus is on their careers, is on their studies, where mine's kind of half and half, really. I never saw it as, oh, I'm not doing well at uni, so I have to look for somewhere else. I always kind of felt that it came hand in hand. And I felt like since I have something else to hold on to, for example, like religion-wise, it makes me want to work harder, because it makes me more thankful for where I am. And then if I'm more thankful for where I am now, I'm less likely to throw it away by messing around or not doing my assignments or not studying or whatever. So I think they both come hand in hand, and they make me stronger in whatever it is that I want to do. It was difficult at first because I didn't tell a lot of people, because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing, and I didn't want people to start pushing too many facts at me, because then it would be just like overload. So then I went into it slowly, and I remember it was 2 years ago, just before Ramadan. So then I thought, let me try fasting, see how this is. So I tried that, and then that was all right. Like, I didn't find it hard, because I know a lot of people always complain to me, oh, I'm fasting, oh, it's so hard, I can't do this, I can't do that. But it's not really that hard. I don't know because I guess I'm really small anyway, so I don't need to eat all the time. But it wasn't that hard for me, and I enjoyed it, because when it came to time, like, to break fast or whatever, I was just much more happy to eat the food that I had. So I think that is one of the main reasons why you fast in the first place, so you can appreciate what you have. So, and I thought, this is nice, like, I felt like I was doing something right in my life. Because before it was kind of just like a big blur, like I didn't know what I was doing or why I was doing it. So then when I had like, after that first Ramadan, I just felt, you know, this seems right for me, let's continue, let's see how it goes. And then it was about November, December-ish, it was around Eid al-Qadir, is that what it's called? Yeah, and then I came, because my friend had mentioned this mosque to me in Mai Dang in Kilburn, and then so I thought, oh, let me check it out, see what it's like. And then they had a talk there, and then that was like the first ever talk I've ever been to, and I was really nervous because I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. But I really enjoyed it, and I think that was the most defining moment for me in terms of knowing that I am there, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because it all made sense. Like, I didn't understand a lot of what he was saying, but the stuff that I did understand, it made me really click inside me, and I just thought, this is it, this is how I know. And from then on, I started talking to people from that mosque, and I started going back then. I started Arabic classes there, and I don't know, it just, every time I went back, I just felt stronger and stronger, as in, this is what I'm doing, I know I'm doing this right. And then a few months afterwards, I started telling people, like more people, like outside my intimate friend circle. And then, as I expected, they started trying to push their ideas on me. But by that time, I kind of knew where I was already. I knew what I believed in. I knew what I felt was right for me. So everything that they were saying, in my head, I can always, like, if they said something that I felt wasn't exactly right, in my head, I always had sort of a counter argument for it. And then having something to go against what they're saying kind of made me feel, I actually know what I'm talking about. And I've done my research. Like, I know what I'm supposed to believe and things like that. And it made, every time that happened, it just made me feel a lot stronger in myself. Like, and I know that I was not brainwashed because hardly anyone knew about it. I didn't have anyone to brainwash me. And I just knew that I was going along the right way because I could come up with the right arguments for when people say nonsense to me. And from then on, like until this day, it's just these little things that make me feel like I know what I'm doing. In terms of my family, it's complicated, so I don't want to talk to them about it because it's complicated. But like, I know what you mean, because like when I because my story is a very interesting story, as in reverting. And so when I meet new people and they ask me, oh, you know, what religion you are, and I'm like, oh, I'm Muslim, blah, blah, blah. They get really interested, so then they tend to ask me about my story. So then I'll be like, so-and-so, this happened. And then while I don't feel like I'm preaching because I'm just telling them how my personal opinion, I feel a sense of, I don't know, relief or something, I don't know. I just feel really nice to know that I'm sort of dismissing any negative views that they might have had in the past about Islam. And then, because, for example, if I meet people that I've met, if I've known people for a few months or whatever, they know how I am. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, so, you know, you're Muslim, you're not, you know, a terrible person, you're not going to go around this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, because whatever, da-da-da-da, it says this, it says that, you're supposed to be like this, you're supposed to be like that. And then the fact that I sort of told them something that they didn't know to start with, that does make me feel like I'm doing my bit, as it were. So, yeah, I do feel sometimes, oh, I should tell people, but I don't feel like I'm qualified enough to start going around and saying to people, you should do this and you should do that. Definitely not. But if people do ask me, I will tell them my opinion, and most of the time it has left a positive impact, so that makes me happy so far. Well, the Quran in itself, it's something that is like, makes me really emotional. Like, obviously I can't read the Arabic, so I can't appreciate it in its fullness. But like, even the English translations, even though I know it wouldn't be perfect, but even just from someone outside reading on that, you'd think, wow. Like, I know a lot of it, and it all just does make sense. And I think that's what I like most about Islam, the fact that it makes sense. It's very logical and very rational. And I am a very rational person. Like, there has to be a legitimate reason for everything. And I feel that with Islam, that is the case. And if there's not a legitimate reason for doing something, then you probably shouldn't be doing that in the first place. So I think the Quran definitely is something that really makes me believe that I'm going the right way, because there's no way some guy 2,000 years ago could have just sat down and wrote that without any sort of inspiration, as it were, or just from the top of his head. So yeah, I believe that's a major thing. In terms of personalities in the history of Islam, definitely the Prophet. Like I've read a few books like detailing his life and things that he went through and stuff like that, and it kind of gets you, because it's like if you in this day and age, if that stuff were to happen to you, and I think, how would I react? Like, how would I be able to cope with this? How would I be able to handle this? And to read the way that he has done it, it's just like, wow. Like, how can somebody be that strong in their heart to just deal with all of this, all the nonsense that people were giving him? And it's just like, strong characters like this makes me think that if they really truly believed so much in their religion, and it's made them such good people that they are, then they can't be following something wrong. You know, it can't be a bad thing what they're following. So, yeah, like I always hear lots of different stories about different events and different people, and when I hear stories and stuff, I don't usually cry, because I'm always able to detach myself from these things. But like, for example, when I went to the mosque one day during Muharram and they were giving the lectures about what happened back then, I actually cried, and I was kind of really embarrassed with myself, because like I don't cry in public. But then I started crying, and then I was like, oh my God, why am I crying? But then everyone else was crying, so I thought, it's all right, I'm allowed to cry. So things like that really hit me, and it just made me think, wow, just the fact that it can just get me so much. And like people that technically I don't even know these people, like thousands of years back. I don't have any sort of physical, connection with them. They're not like my immediate family now. So why do I feel so strongly about what's happened? And I think that in itself is just the fact that you can have that connection with people you don't technically know. I think that's just amazing. It's something you can't really explain. It just kind of gets you in your heart, and I think anybody, like whether they're religious or not, if they just hear those stories, they would obviously feel something. And I have a very skeptical side to me. So when I started hearing the stories, I was just like, but how do you know that is what actually happens? Like Chinese whispers, things get distorted, especially, back in days, they don't have like internet where they could just tell people what's happened and everyone else would know. So I was very skeptical at first that, did this actually happen? But then, like, obviously after reading around it and things like that, like even if some people, when they tell the story, they might over-exaggerate it a little bit, the fact is, it happens still. Regardless of if they've over-exaggerated it or not, there's still, it's still an event that has happened, and there's nobody in this world who denies that that happens. They might just not think about it or whatever, or just try to ignore it. But I think it's like when wars happen, like in today's society even, like people still feel that emotional connection even though it has nothing to do with them. And I think that's just the humanity side in everyone. Like, nobody should go through anything like that. And as human beings, like even from birth, like babies know what is morally right and what is morally wrong. There have been studies that have shown this. And I think we all know that shouldn't have happened. And I think that's why it's able to get to people. That's why people are able to connect to them, because they just know that when they see something or when they hear about something that's wrong, you just know. It's true, like even you can, for example, like hallucinations, like you can have like complications that would cause you to have hallucinations. But even, say if you get two people and one person says that they feel this or they see this, another person doesn't, say it's perfectly healthy or normal or whatever, and then you say, oh, so person A must have this wrong with their brains. But if you were to induce that, what you would call wrong, in that person B, they will not necessarily see what person A sees. So then it's not something as simple as you have a clot in this area, therefore you're going to be seeing hallucinations, therefore you're going to have this spiritual belief in you. So, and I think that's what fascinates me about neuroscience as well, because it is different for everyone. There is not one answer that explains something in everyone. And then I think because there is not one answer, there must be something else that scientists have not looked at yet. Like, I know there are a lot of people that will be like, oh, it's because we don't know it yet, but in 100 years' time we'll figure it out. Okay, so you'll figure that out in 100 years' time. But what about people who are religious now, who have already figured it out? Why can't you look at them? Why can't you ask them what they think about it? And I think it's just the case of people just being really stubborn. And I really think it is like you only see what you want to believe. And if people don't want to believe that people have spiritual experiences, then they will always find a way to sort of counterbalance that. But I think me and myself, like, I know there are certain medications, there are certain conditions where you would maybe see things that you normally wouldn't see and things like that. But, like, for example, my friend told me about a patient the other day who is a bit psychotic, and then he was like, how do you know this person says she sees angels? How do you know that she doesn't actually see angels? And how do you know that it's, the doctors call her psychotics, they put her on these drugs. How do you know she actually hasn't seen angels? And then I was like, if she has seen angels, then I understand why people would call her psychotic. But she's clearly experiencing other symptoms that's related to psychosis that is not just what someone would experience if they, for example, have seen angels. So obviously it's not just as simple as you see angels, you must be crazy, or something like that, So I was thinking, if she wasn't experiencing these other symptoms, then maybe she wouldn't be psychotic, and maybe doctors would think, wait, hold up, what's going on here? But, so that's why I just feel like you can't just say that there's a scientific explanation to everything, because there are so many things we don't know. I do believe people are scared. They're either scared or just really, really stubborn. And I think people are scared of the unknown. That's what it is. Like, for example, if someone was scared of the dark, it's not the actual dark that they're scared of. It's the fact that they don't know what's out there. So what people are scared of is something that they don't know. And when it comes to, like, scientific experiments or, like, facts, as you will, people feel safe with that because it's like, oh, this scientist saw it in his lab, so therefore it's true, I'm going to believe in that. Where it's something that somebody can't see, and they're just a bit like, oh, I'm really scared. So they're just going to be like, it can't be true, it can't be true. And also with religion, there's this whole idea of consequences. People don't like consequences. People don't like to think, oh, I'm going to do this one day, and then 20 years down the line, it's going to come back and bite me on the arse. They don't want to think that they can't live their lives in the way that they think they're enjoying it. So I think that's a big thing as into why people don't want to go down the route of religion. And also, like I was saying earlier, some of the followers of religion don't really do it any favours, really. And so, because if somebody were to think about religion, they're not going to just first open the book. They're going to look at the people that are following it, and that's where they get their first impressions from. And that doesn't help a lot, I think, in my opinion. So I think people hold on to science because even though they would say, oh, it's not a religion, whatever, I think people do follow it religiously. But I think science is not fact, because what we're finding out now, even 10 years ago, we were thinking something completely different. So science is a theory for what is the most acceptable explanation for what's going on now, and that always changes. And if you read any article, the conclusion will always be further research needed, because no one has the answers. And so I think people don't like the idea of that the answer could be religion, because they are so scared of religion. They're scared to open themselves up to that option. So I think, I don't know, they would rather think nothing exists, and that rather than just, I don't know, look at someone else's opinions. And I think, I don't know, it makes me kind of sad, really. Like, people are so close-minded sometimes. Like, I love science, I'm a scientist, but there's just so much more out there, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of sad that people don't see that. I don't have such targets like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. The only thing I want to do is just learn more. Like, I feel like you can never know enough, and especially when it comes to things like religion. And that's all I want to do. I just want to continue reading and learning, and just, I really like listening to other people's views and opinions, because I feel like it helps me to make my own. And that's all I really want to do in terms of religion. Just keep reading and, yeah, just keep talking to people, meeting different people, that kind of stuff, yeah. Travel around, like, Middle East and stuff like that. But I know my parents will never let me, so that's kind of out of the question at the moment, for at least the next 10 years or so. But I would like one day, hopefully, like to be able to go on Hajj and things like that. But I don't know if that will ever happen, but we'll see. I have a lot of people that I owe to where I am now, and they know who they are, but I would like to thank them because they have helped me so much. And even though I've always said I'm doing this by myself, I've always been really stubborn in terms of that. But I really appreciate that they've given me that space to sort of learn it myself. And if I have questions, they'll answer my questions, and they've not tried to push any sort of ideals onto me, and I do appreciate that. And I just hope that I will just continue to find where I am and where I want to be, and yeah, just be happy. That's it. Just want to be happy.